In 2019, Roderick Lodge lost his wife Pauline after they had been together for 25 years, and he was left feeling lonely and vulnerable. So at 69 years old, he was living in Leiston, it's a town in England, when a friend he had made while he was working in Kenya 3 years before introduced him to a woman called Anita. The more they talked and got to know each other, Roderick found himself falling in love. And he decided, this is the one, this is it. I'm going to ask her to marry me. And she said yes. Oh, how sweet, right? The thing is, though, Roderick had actually never met Anita. The whole relationship was built on social media. What Roderick saw as a second chance at love would leave him with nothing and homeless after all his entire life savings would be drained from his bank. Hi, my name is Naomi Ngendo. You have no idea how much I appreciate you being here, and let's get into today's story. So Roderick had been working in the UN for about 15 years, and his work brought him to Kenya. So since 1991, he has been based in Kenya. And after his wife died, he came back to Kenya to start his new chapter. He loved the country and he had already made a lot of friends here. So Anita was not the first woman Roderick had been in a relationship with after his wife died. He had had an intimate relationship with another woman way before Anita, and he thought this woman would be a part of his life, but she got a job in South Sudan and they decided to end the relationship. The woman, however, told Roderick that she had a friend, and this friend had heard about Roderick. And the woman asked whether she could ask this friend to chat and communicate with Roderick, and they started talking, they started chatting on Viber.
And we started just a chat every day. And within 3-4 months, it was going further. And even though I hadn't met her, I started thinking of marriage. Stupid, but anyway.
So Roderick had been told that Anita was a managing director of a beauty products company. She had over 30 employees, lived in a good part of Nairobi, had 2 cars, and she sounded like a very capable businesswoman. So if Roderick and Anita were to get married, they would live in Kenya. So apparently Anita already had a 4 bedroom house, but she needed some money to finish the house, paint it and furnish it and stuff like that. She wanted to turn this house into their home. And Roderick ended up sending Anita a total of £85,000 over the span of 1 year. This is equivalent to 14.5 million Kenya shillings. On whether Roderick saw any red flags or had a gut feeling that something was going on, this is what he says.
Friends of mine said, "Look, Rod, please, think about this." And
so they were concerned. Your friends were concerned.
Yeah. But it wasn't until really the beginning of May last year that I said enough. The last thing, to be honest, was that her dad was in hospital with cancer treatment, more money. And I said, so I got a friend of mine who lived in Mombasa to check the hospitals for me. No such person.
So Roderick sold his house and came to Kenya, and he used the money to fund his stay in Kenya. He would sleep in Airbnbs, sometimes some friends would host him, and every time he wanted to meet up with Anita in Nairobi, she would either be in a different part of the country or she would just come up with another excuse not to meet up with him. Roderick eventually realized that Anita was not real. Anita was actually his friend who had put them in contact with each other. And by the time he realized this, Roderick did not have enough money to go back home. He had, however, a core group of friends he had made when he worked in the UN, and some of these friends came together and they got him a ticket back home. So Roderick did report the incident to the Kenya police, but you can all guess how that went. They wanted money. So get this, you just lost everything. Someone you thought was a friend has stolen all your life savings. You have nothing left. So you go to the police for help. And it turns out that the police want money to help you catch the person who stole your money, but you don't have money to give the police to catch this person. And you know where this person lives, but you haven't given the police money, so they can't help you. And they tell you not to go confront the person because this person can say you're intimidating them and they can take you to court, and you can't afford to go to court. It's also ridiculous and stupid. So apparently, one of the banks that Roderick had his money in had warned him. They were concerned about the payments and asked him if this so called partner was genuine, but he kept authorizing the payments. On why he still authorized the payments, Roderick says he simply trusted the first lady who introduced him to Anita. He knew her, he had met her, so this possibly could not be a scam. So Roderick did have a pension and is currently living off it, but he says he has lost his future.
I was hoping for a retirement in Kenya. I've still got lots and lots of friends there, but I haven't got even enough money to get an airfare there now, you know what I mean? And I do have pensions, but it would be very difficult to go there now. Unfortunately, well, it's impossible.
Yeah.
So most Kenyans I have seen online are not sympathetic at all to Roderick's situation. I, however, feel some type of sympathy. He's an old man who has spent his whole life working and saving up for his future only for this to happen. I honestly believe if his wife was still alive, he would not have found himself in this situation. He was obviously emotionally vulnerable. Yes, he had friends, and even the bank warned him. It's unfortunate he didn't listen to them, but that doesn't mean he deserved it. That's just what I think. So, as I was reading about Roderick, I found this story about old, broke, and homeless white people who live in the coast. When you go to Mombasa and you see white people, the last thing you expect is for them to be there begging. You expect them to be tourists there having a good time. So, I read about Peter. He's a British national who has been in Mtwapa for 7 years. He does menial jobs there and he begs for food and money. Before this, Peter had traveled to over 20 countries and he came to Kenya when he was 54. The story is Peter met a Kenyan woman who took everything he had and left him with just his passport. He had been homeless for 2 years when he met a good Samaritan who let him live in her servants' quarters. Another lady called Joyce feeds him, and in exchange, Peter does jobs like splitting firewood and cleaning. But Peter does not actually want to go home. He likes the coastal weather, and allegedly, some people fundraised some money for Peter to get some airfare to go back home, but he took the money and stayed in Kenya. And there are so many more such stories like this. I'm not talking about it to say that all Kenyan women do is swindle foreigners. That's stupid and very shallow. There's a story I read about a British woman who was conned by her Kenyan husband. What I'm saying is, we are all swindlers, men and women. I'm just kidding. I just thought that it was an interesting story and I wanted to talk about it, and that is all. That is it. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I would like to know what you think down below, and I would love to see you in my next one. Bye bye.